Welcome to Rebel with a Brush, the podcast where art meets rebellion. I'm Manja, an artist who believes that true creativity doesn't just color inside the lines, it breaks them wide open. Here we dive into the stories, the struggles, and the sparks of revolution behind the canvas. Whether it's challenging the norm, creating bold visions, or uncovering the deeper why behind every brushstroke, every sculpture, every installation or performance. This is where art becomes a movement. Let's push boundaries and create meaning together. You ready? Let's go. Welcome to the first episode of Rebel with a Brush. This is Manja, your rebel with a paintbrush, here to break down the walls of convention and dive into the messy, beautiful world of art. Today we are tackling a topic that stirs up a lot of debate in the art world and beyond, conceptual art. Love it or hate it, it's a movement that changed the landscape of art forever. But what is it really about and where do I stand on it? Let's dive in. Okay, let's start with the basics. What's conceptual art? At its core, conceptual art is about the idea or concept behind the work, being more important than the finished object itself. It challenges traditional notions of what art should look like or even what it should be. Instead of focusing on technical skills or aesthetics, it's about the meaning, the context, and the questions it raises. Think about artists like Marcel Duchamp, who put an urinal on a pedestal and called it fountain, or Joseph Beuys, who saw social action itself as art. These works were radical in their time. They redefined art not as something decorative or pretty, but as something that could provoke, confront, and even disturb. And let's be honest, that's not everyone's cup of tea, right? Conceptual art is divisive, and I get why. It challenges the very foundation of how we experience art. It asks us to think, to reflect, to engage, intellectually rather than just visually. And that can feel a little uncomfortable. So where do I stand on conceptual art? Well, here's the thing. I believe art's role is not just sit quietly on a wall and look nice. Art for me is a language. It's how we express ideas, emotions, and resistance. Conceptual art embodies this belief in a way that traditional art forms sometimes can't. For example, my major conceptual work, Belmarsh Life, is one of the most personal, emotionally, and important projects I ever created. It's not a painting, it's not a sculpture or a thing to be looked at. It's a statement, a living, breathing protest against injustice and suppression. It challenges systems of power, it confronts people with uncomfortable truths, and it invites them to think about the world we live in today. Belmarsh Life wasn't created to be decorative. It was created to raise awareness, to push back against apathy, and to make a difference. And that's exactly why I connect so deeply with conceptual art. It's about more than the medium or the object. It's about the story, the idea, and the impact. Now, I know not many of you probably know about this project I created. Belmarsh Life is a reconstruction of the prison cell Julian Assange was incarcerated for over 5 years in Belmarsh prison in London. And I created a mobile installation, 2 by 3 meters, what was actually Julian's size of the prison cell he was in. We had the possibility to get the original noise from Belmarsh prison from his wing. He had to hear 24/7 in his cell. And I put the furniture we did know he has in there, like a bed, a chair, a metal toilet, into the cell. And I was traveling with the cell for almost 2 years, from city to city up to Strasbourg, where we locked people in. So this was about to raise awareness for Julian's case, but maybe in a specific episode about this a bit more, and at some point in this podcast too. So, one of the biggest misconceptions, and this is where I want to go to, is when we think about conceptual art, and I hear this all the time, is that it's just lazy, that anyone can do it. It's not real. Or one of the major arguments as well, it's just clever marketing to get your name out there. Well, let me tell you, also in connection to Belmarsh Live, at the time I created it, to be really very serious here, and sorry for my wording, no one did give a fuck about Julian, apart from the people on the street was fighting for him and for his freedom. So putting my name in connection to this artwork had nothing to do in order to raise and the vibration of my name in the art world. It was absolutely the opposite, to be honest, because I became persona non grata. And I did it because it was right. I was on the street for Julian already for like 2 years before, in a local vigil team, and I decided I have to do something with my power as an artist and create an installation to raise this awareness for him. So it had nothing to do with marketing. This artwork can't be bought. It can't be anything. It never raised any kind of revenue in this form. Now it's at the Assange archive, where a lot of protest material is collected and will be there on permanent display. And on very rare occasions, this probably will travel again, but this will be seen. But just to say, it has nothing to do with clever marketing, because there are situations where you put your name out as an artist and it raised nothing positive for you in a way of selling, because these works are not created to sell ever. So, but I also want to challenge you on another thing regarding conceptual art. And what is harder? It's creating something that is technically perfect, or creating that makes people question their worldview. Don't get me wrong, there's immense skill and value in traditional technical art forms. And I love them, to look at them, because they are so picture perfect. But conceptual art operates in a different space. It's not about how it's made, it's about why. When I created Belmarsh Live, again, I didn't want people to admire it and say like, oh, how beautiful. I wanted them to feel it. I wanted them to wrestle this message. I wanted to look them up, take some time inside the cell, and try to step into Julian's feet just for a few minutes and feel it, feel the turmoil on your emotions, physically, mentally, on everything, what it does to you when you are in a cell, not guilty of any crime, and you are locked up there and you don't know when you're coming out. This was what I wanted to do. I wanted to start it to that it starts conversations, that people go home and talk with their friends about this, talk with their family about this, to provoke people thinking, and people also take action properly. What we achieve with this artwork, in a way. And yes, also to make feel people very, very uncomfortable with the reality of someone who told us the truth. And that's the goal of conceptual art at its best. So I can say to myself, yes, I achieved this goal. And I love conceptual art for this reason, had the opportunity of doing so. When people dismiss conceptual art as lazy or meaningless, I think it's because they are looking for answers in the wrong place. Conceptual art isn't meant to be easy. It's meant to make you think. It's meant to challenge you. And honestly, that's what great art should do, always. It should push us to see the world and ourselves in a new way. So, how does this all tie into my core belief as an artist? I've always seen art as an act of rebellion. It's about breaking the rules, defying expectations, and saying, what can't be said in words. Conceptual art aligns so closely with that belief. It isn't afraid of tackle the hard truths. When I created Belmarsh Live, it wasn't just creating art, it was creating a platform for justice, for truth, for change. And that's what art is to me. It's not about pleasing people, it's about challenging them. It's about standing up for what you believe in, or in my case, what I believed in, even when it is hard and even it is uncomfortable. I think about artists like Beuys who believed that art could transform society, or even Picasso's Guernica. And a very interesting fact about Picasso's Guernica, as he created this massive painting, when you don't know it, check it out. It's, for me, one of the most important anti-war artworks ever created. So as he created, he didn't want people come to this fair where it was created for to say, oh, how wonderful, how beautiful the flowers. It was a painting, showed everybody what the bombarding of Guernica, this Basque town, did to the people, to the animals, to the nature, to the housing, to everything. It showed the horror and the truth of war. Now, I don't know if you know it well, that Guernica, there's a copy, a tapestry of Guernica, a replica hanging at the UN Security Council in New York at the entry. And so where people go into this. And in 2003, as the United States advertised for attacking the Iraq for weapons of mass destruction on this very day, as the Security Council had to obviously give their yes or no to it, the tapestry of Guernica was covered with a blue curtain. So people gone in there couldn't see this painting, this anti-war monumental painting anymore. And this shows how powerful art is. I mean, you can find all sorts of reasonings for it, why they covered it this day with a blue curtain and stuff like this. But we know for a fact now, first of all, there was never any weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. So going into the Security Council from the side of the United States at this day and asking for permission to bomb the Iraq, what they got, and on the same day, this painting is covered with a blue curtain. I mean, make your own mind up about this, you know? So Picasso didn't paint this for decoration, or someone puts this in his castle at some point and say like, wow, you know, this decorates my wall at some point. No, it wasn't. This painting was about confrontation, about truth. And that's what I aspire to do with my art, with my own work. I want people to think about this. And yes, I want to challenge them. And this can be uncomfortable. And if they want, they can hate my work. Just to be aware, I don't care. You know, so this is where I'm standing now. So why conceptual art matters? Where does this leave us? Conceptual art, for me, matters because it's not afraid to ask the hard questions. It's not afraid to be misunderstood. And in a world that often values comfort over truth, that's incredibly powerful. It's not for everyone, and that's okay. Art doesn't have to be universal, it just has to be honest. If there's one thing I hope you take away from this tiny little short episode of my podcast, then it would be that art doesn't have to look a certain way to be meaningful. It just has to come from a place of purpose. And whether you're a fan of conceptual art or not, I think we can all agree that art is at its best when it challenges us, moves us, and inspires us to see the world a little differently. At least this is what I believe. So thank you so much for tuning in. I'd love to hear your thoughts on conceptual art, whether you love it, hate it, or you are somewhere in between. You can reach out to me. I have my contacts in my YouTube channel here and in my description. You can find me on Instagram. And if you're enjoying the podcast, don't forget to subscribe, share it with your fellow art lovers. Until next time, keep creating, keep questioning, and keep pushing the boundaries. This is Manja signing off.